Lee, where's he gone? Thank you. Where's he gone? Oh, there. Thank you so much, Lee. So Lee has just summed up the power of PR, because what he has done is to be the perfect third-party endorsement for me. So had he just gone, right, okay, so for the next like half an hour, we've got this girl who works, I think she lives in Totnes, and she's got a PR company. She'll talk to you about PR anyway, Lucy Matthews. I would have then leapt on into this little arena and gone, hi, I'm Lucy Matthews, I am absolutely bloody marvellous, and every word that drops from my mouth is gold dust, and you're just going to want to work with me, and you're absolutely, to be honest, you don't even need to listen to very much, you just want to take my card away and work with me from this afternoon. And I would guarantee that you all sort of go, oh goodness me, I think my phone's buzzing, might just go outside and have a drink outside for half an hour because this person is selling to me, and I don't like this. But what he's actually done is to say, you know what, I've met this person who I think you might like. I think you've trusted me, Lee, to come to my event, and I therefore have chosen someone who I think you might find interesting and give you some value, and this person is me. So then all I need to do is go, oh, goodness me. Thank you so much, let's just see. And what we've done, because I work with Bracken here, we've actually used PR to bring ourselves here, thinking, right, who do we want to work with? How do we want to put our message across? We want to do it all nicely, and we want someone to say, do you know what, these people are quite good. So he's summed it up just like that. And what we want to talk about today, I'm sorry, the projector is nothing to do with it, is how to get the right people talking about you, because that's what PR is all about. Loads of people don't get PR, but it is really, really simple. It's just finding the right people to say the right things about you. And we're going to start with a little interesting exercise. No, we're not. We're going to find out whether you've done any PR, actually, just so that I know. Obviously, Bracken can keep quiet. But is anybody here? So do you do PR at the moment? Is it working? You're doing some. What kind of things are you doing?
Of course, we've got a marketing agency, so our PR is kind of inbuilt in our platform anyway.
So you're doing it for yourselves, though? Yes. And what kind of things are you doing?
We obviously do a lot of social media. We do copy, we do video, we do press advertising now.
Is that PR?
It's my list, isn't it?
Anyone else though doing PR? No. Is that?
Sponsor quite a few events.
Good.
Mm.
You, Tim?
With the clients, with tea companies, so we're doing public speaking, lots of stuff on Insta, and putting out some magazine articles, expert opinion from magazines.
Good. Right. So we do know we have got people who do know what they're doing, and hopefully it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So what I'd like to do is to do a quick little interesting exercise. So everyone should have a neighbour. You might have to turn around. Literally, please get into twos. Very quickly, get into twos. And I want you to say one interesting. You have to say one thing about yourself or your business that's really interesting on top of your head. Okay. So what makes you really interesting? You can do it in a little brief. Okay, are we done? Has everyone got an interesting thing?
But actually it's an age thing. It's 60 and
anyone want to share anything particularly interesting that they found out about their neighbour? Jim?
I've just heard what you do.
Okay.
You obviously, I did already know.
Oh, okay.
I've known you for a while, but what's interesting about my business is that conventional medicine route, you've got the psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., that sit there and say, yeah, okay, tell me about all your troubles. Most of the time, the client comes away traumatised because they're having to read everything that the client we can do it without talking about it. We find the core issue, but from the start when you're so high. Clear the emotion that's been attached to that, your troubles miraculously vanish, and you go along.
Yeah, it is. So Jim, that's your angle, isn't it, for PR? So does, but just generally, did you find that easy to do, just to come up with something interesting immediately? No. Good. Because if you didn't, then I have a job to do. But if you then jolly good, you need to go off and do PR with that interesting thing. Because in my experience, that people just go, oh, I haven't got anything interesting to say. But we all have, and that's the nub of PR is to find that interesting thing that your target audience will find interesting and communicate it properly. So just very briefly, Lee sort of very swiftly talked about me. So I've done PR for over 35 years, and I've worked for big agencies, small agencies, I've worked around the world, I've worked for business to business, business to consumer, little tiny organisations, through to big computer companies and property development companies and cockroach spray and you name it, I've done PR for it. And in the last few years, so I've set up Marvellous PR, and Bracken works with me in that, and we work for pretty much everybody. And I, Lucy, love mentoring people and helping people actually get it, which is why I do these talks. And I have a training course and mentoring programs, and so we kind of cover everything. And then last year, 2 years ago, 2017, I wrote a book about it. Ooh! And we should all be writing books about our expertise. And my book was launched in October, and within 3 hours it became a bestseller in all its platforms, in public relations, sales and marketing, and advertising. And for one day, it was the #2 in all business books on Amazon Kindle. So it was ahead of Richard Branson and Guy Kiyosaki and all the people that I follow. And so I do know what I'm talking about. Just, there you are. It's, I would say everyone should be writing a book. Now, how did I get into PR? Very briefly, because this kind of explains PR as well. I always wanted to be a performer. You'll never guess that, will you? I'm prancing about up here. And I wanted to be a performer. Mum and Dad, I went to everything I did. Singing, dancing, musical instruments, acting, reading poetry, the whole lot. And I actually wanted to go to ballet school, and that's me. You can't quite see me, it's too grainy, but luckily, that was me. And luckily for me, I think my mum and dad spotted that I wasn't going to make it, so they persuaded me to go to university instead, did a drama degree. And when I came out, I didn't know what to do, so I sold advertising space, display advertising space, because as I told my father, much more important than classify. And for an advertising magazine called Campaign. And I rather swiftly realised that I was very good at the early stages of selling display advertising, which is it's all a formula, and you get to know your person, and you ask them lots of questions, and you find out about them, and they warm to you. And because in my case they didn't think I was selling to them, because I wasn't, because I was so rubbish at selling, and I got through to the but what's with that money, and I just went, anyway, that's my magazine, I'll put it through. And obviously I lost my job. And luckily for me, though, there was a girl in the organisation whose husband works for a PR company, and she and I had a few drinks together, and so she said, oh, you will work with him. So I went to be the lowest of the low, assistants in this tiny little PR company in London, and that was it. After that, the rest is history. So what I've done, though, for over 35 years, is to help people stand out from the crowd. That's basically what PR is all about. And more specifically, it's to grab the attention and find the influencers whose opinions we can kind of push so that they will put us in front of the target audience. And so basically, we need to find the influencers and like Lee talking to you, saying, you should meet these girls, they know what they're talking about. That's what our world is all about. So it's just finding those people and getting your message out to the next lot, their target audience. So that's what I will quickly sum up today. Everything I'm going to say is in my book, and so you have an opportunity to have that at the end. And also, if you have any questions, I will hang around, and I'll also be here to answer questions, and plus, you'll have my contact details so you can get in touch. So what I want to do, though, as quickly as I can, is to tell you 3 stories. And the stories are Oranges and Onions, Schools Out, and PR Paradox, because they sum up some pretty fundamental things about PR, which you will no doubt know, but some things it might just either you haven't grasped, or you might think, do you know what, I think we should be doing more of that. One is obviously how to work successfully with journalists, which is fairly fundamental. And then the next one, which I think a lot of people don't get, is the power of association. And that's, was it you saying responsible? No, exactly. That's big. I think that's about sponsoring, being part of something like this, where you are being sort of bigged up by the associations that you are in. So that's a big one. We'll talk about that. And then the other one is basically, I believe in having routines for how you go about your sort of daily, weekly work, where you can get better PR. And from that is how you're getting people talking about you. And I'll be able to help you with that. I've got a little routine that you need to remember. So, okay, so this first story was, I left London and we went to I got married and my husband's job was moved to Sydney, Australia, so lucky me. And because in those days you could go, and just purely because we could, we were given permanent residency, how lovely, and I worked for this massive PR agency, Australia's biggest agency, and we had fantastic clients with Pepsi, we had pasta ready meals, we had Australian rules football, all sorts of things. And I was given Tabasco sauce. And I thought, oh, lovely. I'd just come from this place in London where our biggest client did industrial floor cleaning equipment. So I had no idea what to do. But I was told what we did was we employed a professional chef who came up with these lovely recipes, all including Tabasco sauce, and then we had them beautifully photographed, and then we sent them to every journalist across Australia, because our target audience was enormous. So one such recipe was called stuffed oranges. And if I remember rightly, a very long time ago, the chef dug out the inside of an orange and made this beautiful little rice salad laced with Tabasco sauce. Put it in this lovely orange with a beautiful salad around it, and it all looked lovely, the photographs were lovely. And then for anybody who's under 35, or probably under, anyway, can you remember a time when there wasn't the internet? We had no emails, no internet. We didn't. I'm not sure we even had a fax machine actually. But we literally typed out this press release, and asked my secretary typed it out, and then showed it to me. And we all looked at it. Yep, that looks fine. And then we had it photocopied, and I think we probably sent it out to 500 press. So we had it photocopied 500 times, clicked it all together, folded it up. We had 500 photo prints of the photographs. We had 500 labels that we stuck on the back, and we had a label that we stuck on the envelope, and then we put it all in the franking machine, which was my favourite thing to do, because I fancied myself working in a post office. And so it all goes through this machine, and it all went into a bag, and off it went. And then we had nothing to do, because you just had to wait then to see whether anybody used it. And that was fine. So about a week or so later, you get a little envelope in the post, a fat envelope in the post, which was from the press cuttings place, and that would literally be the cutting from your newspaper. And so I sat down my cup of coffee. Oh, look at me with all my cuttings, and opened it up. And one after the other, they were saying things like, stuffed onions. Who'd want to cook stuffed onions? And then there was another one, Samuel Taylor, who was the client. Samuel Taylor doesn't seem to notice oranges from its onions, stuffed onions. And I thought, oh my God, this must be us. And so then, of course, you've got the filing cabinet, pull out your copy, because we always put one copy in the filing cabinet. And there it was. So it said that the subject was stuffed oranges, but obviously we hadn't proofread it properly. And it said, take 6 large onions. And then, oh no. So then, oh my goodness. And I was still the relatively lowest of the low. So we had to ring up all these journals. Well, what we did was we rang the important ones and said, have you used it yet? If you have, could you run a little addendum for us that we've made a mistake? And if you haven't, can you just change it? And luckily, because we knew these people and we'd sent them stuff before, they said, yes, that's fine. So we managed to then get some decent coverage. And I kept my job. But what you gather from this little nightmare story is that journalists will and can report things as they want. They obviously can't be libelous and slanderous, and we've got something at the moment actually with someone I worked with a few years ago, and he's rung in a panic saying, we've had the Guardian round and we didn't know it was the Guardian. He pretended to be someone else. and we have no idea what he's going to write. And luckily, he has come to us, because then we can find this journalist and we know how to communicate with him. But basically, you must make sure that anything you write, especially if you have comments from other people, make sure that they're happy with that comment and they've approved it. Photographs, are they happy to be used? Because and what you've written also, you will stand behind, because journalists can basically interpret things as they want to. So, and along with that, you must never, ever, ever ask to see the copy first, because that's not etiquette. And mostly they won't. No, we had to. Like Braggs pulls a face, because we've literally had to ask someone this week, haven't we? And he's very kind, because again, which is my third thing, you get to know your journalists. Because we're very matey with this said journalist, he said, well, right, because the client's really nervous about what is going out. But if you're really diligent and you make sure that what you've written is what you will stand by, and it hasn't got any mistakes, and you have checked the website, that's right, and your phone number and everything else, that's all right, then you should be fine. But if there are problems, then you do what we did and you go back and go, I'm really sorry, please just help me. So my next story takes us a few years on. So we came back from Australia and I had one child, and then lived in Surrey for a few years as a mummy and wasn't working in PR at all, and had 2 more children. And then again we were moved with a job, and we were moved to Luxembourg, which actually is an incredibly difficult place to live. I don't know if any of you know Luxembourg, but it's this big, and you have to speak all these languages, and their language is called Luxembourgish, which is just impossible. And we were sent out there with these 3 children, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there for. So we thought, be sensible, which in retrospect I think was very boring. We put them into the British school, because then they could learn keep to the curriculum. And the British school was in this horrible, this is so grainy in here anyway, but I chose it because it is a really grey, grainy, horrible photograph of this really grey, horrible place that our poor children went into, because the school rented the 2nd floor. And when we went to this school, there were something like 40 children aged between 5 and 11, and they were all different nationalities, and one little boy was going back to Eton, and he was 10, and then there was a little boy who was 5, he'd come from South America, and he didn't want to sit down, and he didn't speak any English anyway, and he was round everywhere, and they were all split into 3 classes, and there were no facilities, and we had to pay a lot of fees. Well, of course, they could do that, because most people were sent out with a business, and the business paying the fee. But all us mummies and daddies were saying, hang on a minute, so all the PTA meetings would say, why don't we do any art? Why haven't we got a gym? Why isn't my daughter learning the piano? And every time the owner, Tony, would say, I'm sorry, but we haven't got enough money, we can't afford it, So eventually, I chipped in at a PTA meeting and said, so, if we could get you more pupils, Tony, could we have more facilities? And he said, are you offering music? I said, yes, I am. So I immediately, suddenly, found myself back in work that I hadn't been in for a very long time. And so I chose 2 friends to help me. So I was in charge of PR, and one of my friends had sold a recruitment consultancy in London. So she was on the phone, selling in, and so I brought them in nice and warm. She then converted them, and then we had this wonderful friend who was Dutch and brilliant at admin, and sort of worked everything out and got it all organised. And I will show you the picture, but we doubled the enrolment in 18 months, and we only worked 1 day a week and in the term time, and it was nearly all through PR. So what I did was I found the magazine, and it was just Luxembourg News. That was nice and easy. So I got hold of the editor, got very, very friendly with her, made sure she had a press release and a photograph every month, and that was fine. But the thing that we really needed to do was to get an allegiance with somebody. And in the English-speaking world in Luxembourg, the big club was the British Ladies Club. And it was just like that. It was hilarious. And I mean, it had men in it, but it was terribly, terribly posh. And everybody had to be part of the British Ladies Club. And everyone played golf, and they played tennis with them, and they played bridge with them, and they raised funds, and they were very sort of just jolly good. So and I thought, that's who we've got to be in with. So I went to see them and I said, what can we do? What can we do? Well, you know, so this is one of my photographs. We sponsored a car boot sale, and that was fine. And we had a little stand to it and everything. But the one that we did best at, and I know we got loads of parents from this, was that they had a village fete every year that the British Ladies Club organised. And so it was in a little place outskirts of Luxembourg. And they said we could be part of it. So I said, I know what we'll do. We'll be the creche. We'll run a creche, because that says to people who are coming round that we know what we're talking about with children. Children love us because we have this creche and fun things in there, and also we were raising any money that we got. You know, we'd have some sort of raffle or something, and the money would go to the charities the British Ladies Club was supporting. So we were all part of the whole thing, and parents could come in. They didn't have to be saddled with their children all afternoon. They could go and have their cream tea, and we'd look after their lovely little darling, and then they come and take it away again with, of course, a little bag telling them all about our school. And it did brilliantly. We did it 2 years in a row, and we got so much positive kind of energy, and we definitely got our parents from that. And then, of course, we did the PR from that. We wrote a press release, we had photographs, we had people, had case studies of someone saying how lovely afternoon they'd had. So and now that's the school. It has its own purpose-built building, has 750 pupils, and it's doing really, really well. And Tony, I'm not sure you can read that, but this was the headmaster at the time. He said, at the time I recruited Lucy, school was suffering from falling enrolment and poor image in the community, a big thing with PR, and was close to financial insolvency, and we doubled the enrolment in 18 months. And I'd stressed, we made an amazing return on investment for him, because he only paid us 1 day a week, and only in the term time. And that was it. And he got all this money. So that was that. So I would say that my points from this is the value of that allegiance thing. So if you can find people, it's basically PR is not all about working with journalists. The journalists are there, and they are obvious third-party endorsement. But there's so much more, and especially with social media, that if you can find the right people who basically are influencing your target audience. So that's the clever thing. It's working, having a real laser focus on who are the people that you want to work with. Who are the people that you want to be buying your stuff? Where do they hang out? For example, so we did that with the children, but personally I've done masses of work with property developers, and particularly in the retirement market. And that's hilarious. They go and build somewhere nice, Torquay, and they'll be new to the area. So we have to work out what societies, what groups should we be sponsoring part of, that these old people will be in. And not just the old people, it will be their daughter and their son, maybe a next door neighbour, might be their doctor, might be somebody who's suggesting that they should sell their current house and move into our retirement development. And so we go to bridge clubs and Rotary clubs and University of the Third Age and all that, and you get as much value from that as you do making sure you've got a piece in the Sunday Times. So that's a really valuable exercise to do, to really hone down who your target audience is, where they hang out, what they do, and how you can get into that. And then, of course, to get involved like we did with just work out what you can do. Is it a school thing? Is it financing the little tops for the under-9s rugby team, or is it a prize at the end of the golf championship, or something like that? Or it might even just be sending an article for their magazine. But you're just being nice to them, and it'll come back in swathes for you. And then I come a little bit more up to date. So this is Marvellous PR. So I finished all this stuff in travelling around, came back to England, and I set up on my own. And I think I set up in 2007. And so went along for a long time, it was just me, and with other people sort of gently coming into my world. And then I realised that I needed to change, like I'm sure any of us who run small businesses think, this isn't sustainable, me on my own, working just for, getting money just for the hours I do. I need to look in the bigger picture. So I got a friend to brand me, and that's why I became Marvellous PR, because my surname was Matthews. so leaving them. But also, he said, you do use that word rather a lot, Lucy. So I said, oh, okay. And now it's pretty brilliant because we get introduced over, oh, this is Marvellous Bracken, Marvellous Lucy. Yes. So it kind of has a ring to it, which is quite good. And anyway, I joined this. This group called the Entrepreneurs Network. In fact, that's where we met, Jim, wasn't it? And in there, I found really quickly what I have now termed the PR paradox, which is just a nightmare. And I just have now set my career to make sure this doesn't happen, which is that small businesses, people like us probably, who are struggling to get our messages out and in competition with the big names and the big companies, we are the people who don't use PR because not me obviously, but you, because those people I met in this group, I met hundreds and hundreds of people, and they would go, oh, no, goodness me, no, it's for the big boys, isn't it, PR? Yeah, I couldn't afford it, I haven't got time for it. But ironically, PR is the thing for a small business because you can do it for nothing. It doesn't cost anything, it isn't an advertisement. It's free. You just get to know your journalists. And now with social media, you can get to know your journalists as well as we can, because you can find them on Twitter, you find them on Instagram and Facebook, and you befriend them and you get them, you start communicating, engaging with them, and that's free. I just don't get it that people don't do that. And then I realised was that the top 5% of any of your markets, any of your niches, the top 5% will be doing PR, and that's how they got there and how they stay there. All the big names, they do use PR, they spend a fortune on it, but you can do it relatively cheaply yourself, or use people like us, obviously. We can do it. So basically, I joined this group and I became their PR expert, which was hilarious. And they took me for one weekend. We had this thing, which you can't really see them, can you? But it was a weekend called the £1 Million Master Plan. And basically you paid to go on this thing for 4 days. And you had 2 days of learning everything you needed to learn to turn your business into a £1 million business. And part of that was PR. So great. So you had 2 days of learning. So there was finances and staff and premises and all sorts of things. And then you had 2 days with the experts. And I was one of the experts. So, and they did it like a sort of parent-teacher thing. So we had a little table, there's my little table, and it just said a little thing. And we turned up on day one, there was 2 days of it, with a sheet in front of us, and everything was cut down to 20-minute chunks from 8:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And I just thought, well, no one's going to be there, are they? Because none of this lot believe in PR, because I've already told them that. And so I shall just have to sit here and make lists and make it look as if I'm busy. So I thought it'd be fine. My lists were absolutely chocker for 2 days in a row. And I absolutely loved it. So basically people, one after another, would sit down and go, right, well, I run a florist. What are you going to do for me? And then, well, I've got a garage. What are you going to do for me? And I thought, right. And so this is when I came up with this little routine for them. And basically what I got them all to do was to find out what made them interesting. And the number of people go, well, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, I was just on a garage, didn't I? See? But you must be interesting. I mean, what do you do the weekends? I mean, can you not talk, what are you most passionate about? And they'll go, oh yeah, I'm quite passionate about football. Well, there you go. Well, who do you support? And eventually I got them to come out with some interesting thing about their business, though. And I said, right, you need to be writing press releases on a regular basis and sending them out. Oh, do I? Okay, yeah. And then who are we going to send them to? So it was find it. And so basically the three things were: who's your market? So that's the market being who you're going to use to get your press release out there, which, got it wrong, sorry. The market is your target audience. The media is how you're going to get it out there. And then the message is, what is it that's interesting? What is it that I'm going to say? And all of them, literally one after the other, I would say, so well, what's in the news? What's happening? Something must be happening, you're a florist, it's a Chelsea flower show, can't you talk about that? And what's happening in roses and whatever. So, oh yeah, okay. And then so I think we're going to talk about roses. So where are we, who am I going to talk to about this? Well, yeah, maybe it's a local thing, isn't it? Right, so you need to find your local press. Good, yeah, and you're going to do a press release to your local press, and how are you going to find them? On Twitter, I told them, well, obviously, for us, we spend a fortune on a very expensive media database, so we can find all these people. But if you're going to do it yourself, you can find them. You can find the journalists. So some of these people are still clients, some of them are on mentoring programs with us because we became good friends, and they still get a lot out of working with me, and they certainly all keep up. They're all getting those emails like you were saying earlier. And what they've done is develop a PR mindset. And that's the thing that I would love you to go away with, to say, okay, on a regular basis, when you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to put on Instagram, what am I going to put on Facebook, you're thinking, so what is it that's interesting? What's going on in the news that I can comment on, that in my world, that I, as the person on the ground, can give a solid sort of bit of background, because every journalist is looking for that person. And if you could be that person, you could be the person who comments on what's happening locally, or on the person who's talking about safety, or whatever it is everyone's doing. But you can be that person. And you need to be thinking about it all the time, and tuning into what's happening in locally, in the news, whatever, and then saying, right, okay, so now what am I going to do this month? I'm going to write a press release, or I'm going to get an article on LinkedIn, or I'm going to get it on, well, you should do it. And I'm going to do a blog post, or I'm going to do emails. And actually, that my PR is that actually Lucy's PR. I just send these emails out twice a week, and I don't sell, do I? I just give you a little. But it genuinely works. People years on will go, do you know what? You're right. It's about time I did some PR this season. So I really encourage you to have that little. It's very simple. It's a market message media little routine. Now, I think I put something. Oh, yes. What I want you to try. Sorry, I've lost my thread. The 3 things to remember then from that little story is not to be sucked into that PR paradox. Please don't be people who think PR's only for the big boys, because it isn't. And you want to be thinking like the big boys in your world, and think, well, bloody hell, if they're paying for PR to be up there, I need to be doing it, or I need to be doing it myself. Also, that little simple mass media market message plan, have that literally in your head, and to have these routines. That's just build them into everything else you're doing. And I think I threw this chap in there as, can you see him? Charlie Mullins. So Charlie Mullins I met because he is a man with a PR mindset. So I wrote my book, and I thought, I need somebody to provide me with a really good forward. And I thought, so who right now is really big in PR? Richard Grove, obviously. But he's kind of a bit, probably a bit far away, a bit busy. Yes, so obviously wouldn't want to hear from me. So, no, it can't be him. So then now that's asked around, and we thought, well, the hell, it is Charlie Mullins, because he's very publicly said he's built his business using PR. So I approached him, and he said, yeah, do that. Well, he's PR now, so he can do that. And he wrote a fantastic foreword in my book. And basically, having met Charlie, he says he has 2 full-time PR companies, consultancies working for him. He has a PR department with 5 people in it, run by the chap who wrote this for me, who's fantastic, who's super busy, because they do all these things that we talk about. They sponsor things. He runs for mayor. He does all that. He's just got this PR mindset. And his big thing is something I always stand by, that there's no point doing a good job if you're not telling other people that you're doing a good job. Getting someone to say you're doing a good job. And that was his big thing. Just get people talking about him all the time. So yeah, Charlie is a little bit of a hero for us. So that's pretty much what I wanted to put over. And I hope I have put over that racing through too quickly, but it's a bit hot in here and a bit dark, so everyone might go to sleep. But there's no point, and I keep being told this, there's no point, you can learn these things, but it's not all about what you're learning it, it's what you actually go and do with it. So those who aren't doing PR, can you tell me what stops you from doing it now? And what would stop you from going away this afternoon?
Writing. Actually, physically writing.
You're not a writer?
I'm a designer, anything pictorial, struggle with writing.
Yeah. So you need help with that, with the writing. Yeah. And any other sort of
suppose at least it explains what somebody else is going to find interesting about your business, and you identify that.
Yes. Well,
It might be interesting to you yourself,
Yes.
but
well,
you
that's
can share it.
that's getting to know your target audience and what they find interesting, and then finding out where they get their news from, where are they going for information, or what organisations are their influencers, and then finding out what they would find interesting to do with you. Gosh, simple. Yeah,
Simple for you.
simple. Sorry, Andrew.
I think it's easier to gravitate. I don't know. For me, it's easier to gravitate to the things that you're good at. And to your point, if I don't feel like I'm good at writing, I'll go and do something that I'm good at, and then the day's gone. It's like, and then you come to tomorrow and you do it again.
Yes.
So actually, it's interesting you're saying that the 5% do it. Because actually, if they're the 5% at the top, it's like, then why aren't we doing it?
Exactly.
So go and learn
So
it. Make
therefore,
time.
if you're not a writer, the thing to do is say, well, maybe can I find someone who can do that writing for me? So, and then that will force me to, once that's written, I've got to do something with this, and I'll probably pay this person to do it for me. And then it's getting it out there. I've kind of come up with a few of the excuses that people give me all the time. It's not for me. I haven't got any time. I'm not interesting enough. I haven't got any money. I haven't got any resources. I don't know where to start. And I would be able to answer all of those by saying, you just hang out with us, really. And so I would say then, my answer then is, you can start by joining our world. And in our world, we have this book, which is for entrepreneurs. And it's 10 chapters with, at the end of every chapter is things that you can do, literally. And then it's all summed up at the end. And all sorts of things like I've talked about, but loads more. So, you can have our book. And here, you can buy it from me today, signed.
Not someone losing sight.
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's been written all over. Exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're right. It's been written all over. Or we in Marvellous PR, we go, as I say, we go from one to the other. So the way to also have us helping is we do these mentoring programs, which is a very, very cost-effective way of getting our PR advice. Not bigging myself up, but we're all senior people, and we've been doing this for many years. So we can come up with ideas. I have a mentoring group who meets every Thursday. So literally, I raced here after mine, and we do it all online. But they are doing so brilliantly. They're all day nursery owners. And there's a little group of them, and they're all over the country, but we come together twice a month, and we brainstorm what they're doing, how to help, and I help them, and they are getting press coverage all the time, and their businesses are doing really well. I didn't put a testimonial on there, but we've got it on our website. And then the other thing, obviously, we do is we do it for you, and we can do the whole thing, and we work with people we start at that price, and we go, but we work for authors, we work for startups, we work for property people, we work for a publishing,
retail, property.
Yeah, so that's us. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I do hope you have taken away something. I'm going to leave you with a quote, which is Charlie Mullins' favourite quote, and was mine before. It's from John D. Rockefeller, who says, next to doing the right thing, the most important thing is to let people know you're doing the right thing. And I would add in another right, I would say to let the right people know you're doing the right thing. And so that's been me. Thank you very much. And that's my